All right, guys, and we are live with our first live of 2026. We're going to take a look at what's happened in 2025 a little bit in the Metro Detroit and Detroit area. And then, of course, we're going to go into what's coming in 2026. And as always, I always want to start with where you guys are coming in from. Who's watching? Where are you at? Where are you from? All of it. So go ahead and throw that down in the chat or in the comments. Okay, I see somebody from, oh, yeah, Oakland Township. That's right up the road. I don't live that far away. Ferndale, Michigan. Well, that's pretty close too. Okay, cool. Novi, Michigan. Yep, actually lived in Novi myself for, I don't know, maybe 11 years before moving to Royal Oak. Something like that. Oh, we got downtown Detroit. We've got a Toledo. Is that the furthest away? Is Toledo the furthest away? Where are you guys watching from? Throw it in the comments. I always like to see where people are coming in from. But we've got a lot of news going today. We're going to look back at 2025. We're going to look forward to 2026, see what kind of projects are coming to light. We're going to look at some real estate. We're going to look at other news and projects and things happening in the area. And let me know if it's your first time watching us on live, or if you're just one of our regular viewers, which we love so much. And my name is Mike Perna. Let me move this microphone a little bit further over. There we go. My name is Mike Perna, local real estate agent, and we cover everything from sports to news to things happening in the area, attractions coming, concerts, literally everything. So if you're looking to stay up to date, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, but then also check out the Perna Team on Instagram. The Perna Team on Instagram, we literally post every single day, including breaking news. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So this is actually pretty cool. All right, so one of the things that I've been personally waiting for. Let's get this thing up here. There we go. Okay, Slows, guys. Slows has now opened their third sit-down location in Berkeley, Michigan. The second one they had just opened over in Ann Arbor. And of course, they've got the original Corktown location downtown, which everybody loves. They finally opened, and I cannot tell you how long I've been waiting for this. So this is actually really interesting. They're doing so this one's a two-level location. On the main level, they've got the restaurant. On the upstairs, they've got the ability to rent it out for parties and whatnot, events, an event space. And then they're going to open a patio on the side as well come summer, which is very cool. So it just opened December 19th. The patio is coming early spring. We're looking at March or April is what they're targeting. And again, I've been watching this because I drive down to with 696 out. My office is in Novi and I live in Royal Oak. I've been driving down either 12 mile or 13 mile to get home every single day. So every day I literally look at this thing and I'm like, is it open? Is it open? Is it open? And have I been? Yes. And is the barbecue amazing? Yes, it is, as it always is. So Slows is open in Berkeley. Actually, I'm gonna say that one more time. Slows is finally opened their third location in Berkeley, Michigan, and they're knocking it out of the park. They do such a great job. The Corktown location and the Ann Arbor locations are both also amazing. All right, let's move on to our second bit of news today. Here we go. So I got to remove this. It's been a while since I've used StreamYard. I'll take a couple weeks off and look what happens. Okay, so let's remove that. And then let's add in our next thing. Marvelous Marvin's. I'm sorry. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. The site renovation is finally almost done. And this is actually really cool. So this is now 3 times the space of the original location. And if you remember, the original location they had to take down because the owner of that complex had sold it so they could put a Meijer in. And nobody wanted that Meijer. I did a couple polls on it, and I think around 3,000 people have responded. Nobody wanted the Meijer. Everybody wanted Marvin's. Marvin's is a thing that I used to go to when I was growing up. And comment below. Comment if you've been to Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum as well, and then what any great memories you have there. And just to give you a little background on this, this was started by a guy named Marvin, and then his son Jeremy took it over in 2017 when Marvin had passed. It was in the same location for 35 years. They've got over 5,000 coin-operated mechanisms there, literally 5,000. And it actually started over in what was it, Tawny Hall? That's what it was, or Tammy Hall. Tammy Hall? That sounds right. In his house. And he only moved to the second location after 10 years because he had collected so many different mechanical oddities that it had outgrown his house, his basement, his garage, all of it. But let me know in the comments if you've been to Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. Has anybody been there? Well, this is reopening. And again, it's going to be 3 times the space. It's going to have event centers and rooms you can rent out. So he's really going all out and taking advantage of the opportunity of, frankly, getting kicked out of his old spot where the lease came up and they said, nope, we're not renewing it. We're going to tear this thing down and put up a Meyer. So he said, great, I'm going to go full tilt. He's moving just a couple miles up the road over here to the Orchard Mall in West Bloomfield. I'm going to pull that up on a map so you guys can see it. Let me remove that. And then let's stop that share, add in the next one. All right, add it in, and there it is. All right, you probably can't see it because of my face. So let me try moving myself a little bit. Hang on. Let me add this layout. That's probably a little better. Okay, so there it is on the map. Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. It's going to be at the corner of Orchard Lake and Maple. So it's literally going to be about 1 mile north of where it was before. Not even, about a half a mile north in the Orchard Mall Shopping Center, which is pretty cool. Okay, we can get that off the screen. And then remove that. So next up, and this is actually cool, we've got some real estate news coming in, which I love because, you know, I'm a real estate agent, so that's what we do. So let me add that in there. There we go. Okay, so now we've got, oh, let me move that up back up towards the top there. Okay, the Northville Downs that was torn down and made room for homes, brownstones, apartments is finally having their first models open, and they cost upwards of 1.7 million for a home. 1.7 million, and that's the starting price, which means that these things are going to climb up to 1.8, 1.9, or even a little beyond 2 million once people pick all their upgrades, including putting a pool in, which is not cheap. I mean, $75,000 to $100,000 is kind of your base for a pool right now. So this was a $300 million redevelopment. The homes are starting at 1.7 million. The brownstones you can't get in under 700,000. There are 3 different builders in here: Hunter Pasteur, Suave, and the Forbes Group. And then it's going to end up being 443 mixed-use homes, brownstones, and apartments when it's done, including having some retail. These guys are going to expand the 1,100 feet of the Rouge River so that there's a nice nature trail and a hike and a walk, which is very cool. And I think it's going to be a fantastic development when it's done. So no longer can you do a $2 bet on a horse and walk away with a little bit of cheddar. But you can buy a house here and you can live here. And then I'm going to pull up what these actually look like as well so you can see it. So let's stop that screen and start this one, because I do actually have the images. There we go. So this is what the inside of these homes, condos, and brownstones are going to actually look like. So there you can see that there. There are the brownstones and the homes, or and the apartments, should I say. Let me keep scrolling down. So there's what one of the kitchens are going to look like. That's the model that's actually up right now. You can actually go visit it. There are the brownstones getting ready for completion. Yep, and there's the apartment building and the brownstones being built as well. Sorry, those are brownstones. Here, all right, so this is one of the brownstones family rooms. The outside, of course, and the kitchen of one of the brownstones. Yep, and they are hard at work to get this thing up and completed. And they really want to try to keep Northville's aesthetic. Northville, which is known for all of their historic homes, of course. You've got the historic district, which is very strictly regulated, especially on the west side of downtown. The east side of downtown, not as much, but the west side of downtown, like, you got to run your color choices by these guys. And so Northville is really trying to work to keep that aesthetic, which is very cool. Okay, let's see what is next up on our list. Okay, this was a fun little piece. I wasn't going to do it, but I had it prepped just in case. So let's stop the screen share, add in the next one. All right, so here are some of the coolest new bars that came in 2025. And yes, we're still looking backwards in time. We're going to get to all the stuff happening up front coming up in 2026 here in just a minute in the second half. So there have been a lot of new bars and restaurants that have opened in and around Metro Detroit over the last 12 months, right? So downtown Detroit itself has gained 26 new restaurants just in 2025. Oh, I got to bring that on the screen. There we go. Okay. So the first one, of course, is the Dirty Shake over in Midtown, which is a fun place. It's by the same guys behind Chartreuse Kitchen and Cocktail and Freya. And these guys have now opened more of a bar, right? It's about a block away down from the Bronx Bar. If you know the Bronx Bar, if you know the Bronx Bar and love the Bronx Bar, give that one a shout out as well. That is a place that I used to go during college, of course. I think we all did. There's Sheenan downtown. Which is actually going to be which is really interesting. That's more of a wine place. A lot of Gen Zers, a lot of millennials go there. There's Roar Brewing Company over in Midtown, so that's new. Of course, Roar goes with the Pride, right? The one Pride, the Lions, and all that stuff. And then you've got Me, You Kitchen and Cocktails over in East English Village. And then this one I've been to. So Paris Bar is actually really cool. So we're having this really interesting moment right now where a lot of dive bars are being created or recreated. So this used to be the former Paris Brewing Company. And then the same people that brought Outer Limits Lounge, which is just outside of Hamtramck, brought the Paris Bar. It's music, it's art, it's grunge, it's rock. They bring bands in, they bring DJs in. This place is actually a really cool space. If you have not been, I highly recommend going. I had a blast here when I was there. And then of course we've got Father Forgive Me. Father Forgive Me just opened over the summer, which is in the space of an old church, which I think is really, really cool. And if you haven't been there, get there. Full Measure Brewing over in Eastern Market. I've not had the opportunity to get there yet. This one's actually on my list. Let me know if you guys have been. Let me know if anybody's been to Outer Limit Brewing. And I'm sorry, Full Measure Brewing. And of course, Vesper Books and Wine over in Core City, which is a really cool, very chill hangout place. I've been a couple of times. I really enjoy that place. And then we've got Arsenio at Livernois and Fankel, named for the French word rainbow. It's a nightlife destination. It opened in late 2024. And then Cannon's Morningside. I have not been here either. It is a very UK feeling bar kind of a thing. And again, if you take a look at the direction of these bars, now that we're seeing the evolution, like there were a lot of speakeasies for a long time, dating back to like the 20s and the 30s. But now we're really starting to see like Cliff Bell's and places like that. But now we're starting to see places like this where it has that old 70s paneling, 70s basement, 80s basement growing up kind of a vibe. And that's really what's coming to the forefront. That's what Gen Z and the millennials are loving right now. So a lot of these places are being purposefully built to look old or look like our grandparents' basement or our parents' basement back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think it's really an interesting thing that's going on there. And then Eater, of course, had the same the same article, of course, that they put out. Of course, we put it on our Instagram at the Perna Team. But now we're actually going to shift over and start talking about the housing market. So again, guys, throw in your comments, throw in your questions. I'm here for it. So let me screen share this one here. Now, the housing market was super unusual in 2025. I'm going to slow down and talk about this just a little bit. So let's go into a little bit of the history of it. All right. The housing market in 2025 in Metro Detroit was super unique. We saw a 10.7% drop in total home sales. We saw prices go up about 3.7% across all the metro areas, which is really interesting considering we also have high rates, but we also have low inventory. So it's a really unique dynamic in the market. People are trying to hold on the best they can to their 2.5, 2.75, 3% interest rates, and they're living in their homes much longer than they were before. In fact, can anybody guess what the average homeowner or how long the average homeowner has been in their home? Nope. It's not 7 years anymore. It's not 9 years anymore. It's not 11. Nope. That's a good guess. I see a couple of more 9s and 10s. Another 7. Okay, we already said 7. 7 wasn't the number. Close. 13. Close. 13.9 years. It'll be 14 years in probably just a couple of months, but people have been in their homes now for 14 years on average, which is super unique to this market because they're trying to hold on to that interest rate. So, really interesting. President Trump is doing what he can do to try to lower and reduce the cost of housing. However, that does not alleviate the actual problem at hand. So there are two things that are happening. One, he just announced it today. He's instructing the Treasury to buy 200 billion worth of bonds to try to pull the interest rates down, which it's a very temporary solve. It doesn't really do a whole lot. Another thing that he's trying to do is put a 50-year mortgage out, which again, it's a very temporary thing. It doesn't really solve much, just to be honest. It brings down the average payment around 10%. And that just is not a lot when the average payment has over doubled in 2.5 years, right? Doesn't really help that a whole heck of a lot. So now let's look at the actual thing that needs to happen. We need more homes built. Simply put, we need builders to be out there building more homes. And if we look back at the etymology of this, back in second half of 2007 and 2008, the market crashed. I think a lot of us remember it. Some of us are probably too young on the Zoom to remember it, but trust me, it happened. It was painful for a lot of people, a lot of Americans. We saw upwards of 14% unemployment, which was crazy. It actually touched 14%, which had not happened literally since the Great Depression in the 20s, 1929. Now, during that time, about 60 to 70% of home builders were jumped up contractors. And I don't like to use the word jumped up. I'm going to change that. Were contractors that were very good at doing kitchens and basements and things like that. They had become builders. Those guys could not stay in the market and they left the market. Up until that point, we were building around 900,000 homes per year in America, and we needed about 1 million to 1.1 million, but 900,000 is pretty close. And that went all the way down to 200,000 in 2010. Now we've been climbing back up. And as we got on approach to COVID, we finally got back upwards of 800,000 per year. But there are still 9 million homes that were not built while builders started to ramp back up and get back into production. And then, of course, contractors started getting back into the building game. So we're actually down 9 million homes. So buying 200 billion worth of bonds, great. It'll bring down interest rates 1/4 to 1/2 point temporarily. 50-year mortgage, great. That'll bring down the payment 10%. Doesn't really do a whole lot for affordability. But what we really need to do is cut a lot of our municipal and state level red tape here in Michigan, just like anywhere else, so that we can get these builders back into permitting and production again, get those costs down, get the hold times down, get the construction moving faster. That's the only thing that's really going to fix this market. So right now we are looking at 10.7% reduction in 2025 versus 2024 as far as number of homes sold. Yet again, home values are actually up 3.7%. And that's really unique. And if we dive deeper into it, the head of our local multiple listing service is saying that we've got, where to go? We've got the highest amount of inventory now versus a year ago at 24, where to go? There it is, 24,529 listings on the market. And a lot of people are starting to say, okay, is that going to cause a market crash? Is that going to cause a downturn? Is that going to cause all these things to happen? No, it won't. To put that into perspective, the downturn of 2008, we peaked out about 80,000 homes on the market in Metro Detroit. 80,000. 24,500 is a very, very long way away from 80,000. So I have zero fear of a market crash. I think if anything, we should be working towards more homes, not less homes that are available for buyers right now. Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Oh, data centers. Data centers. All right, let's get that out of there. Move on to the next screen. So this has been very, very controversial, especially here in Southeast Michigan. I actually did a poll on this as well. All right, so Michigan is now the target of upwards of 17 different data centers to be installed. There have been 2 approved so far. There's one in Saline, which have been protested mightily, and then there was one in South Lyon that was just approved. Now, to give you a little bit of context on this, which I think is really interesting. So OpenAI is planning on investing $50 billion in data centers right here in Michigan, right? That is a huge amount of money. $7 billion for just one, but they're looking at putting in multiple data centers. And if we really look at this thing straight up, so if they put in So if they do, actually, I'm going to do that again. I want to say it again because I want people to hear it. OpenAI is going to be building a data center for $7 billion in South Lyon, Michigan. In total, by 2030, they plan to invest $50 billion into new built data centers here in Michigan in 17 different locations total between OpenAI, Oracle, and Microsoft, all three of those. What does that mean? That means that they're spending 31 times the amount it costs to build the Bellagio in Las Vegas on data centers here in Michigan. That means they're buying 3 Hubble telescopes, just to put that in perspective. Now, the ones that they're putting here in Michigan, fortunately, are using a closed loop system as opposed to an evaporative system. What does that mean? It means they're going to use a fraction of the water. How much is a fraction? Okay, let's game this out. So with a closed loop system, where it's less evaporative to cool the data centers, where it literally runs through, where the water runs through a loop to cool the data centers down, they have to fill it. And that means that they've got to put in 8 million gallons of water just to fill it. Now, there is leakage and there is evaporation. So over the course of a year, 10 million gallons of water will need to be added. So that's 18 million year one, and then 10 million ongoing. But let's throw that into a little bit of a different perspective. The average golf course in Michigan, it takes 40 million, literally 40 million gallons of water to make sure that that is maintained and the lawns are watered and everything is green and the greens are green and everything's rolling right, all of it. 40 million. So these data centers are much better now than they were at the beginning with the closed loop system, but 17 of them, that's still 170 million gallons of water per year output. Granted, that's only 4 golf courses, but still, it's a lot of water. Where my concern really comes in is the power. So the new data center that Oracle's putting in over in Saline is anticipated to use 3 gigawatts of power. And yes, that was the word that was actually mispronounced as a gigawatt in Back to the Future. 3 gigawatts. To put that in perspective, all of DTE combined is producing 11 gigawatts of power currently. That's it. They will literally be using over 25%. Just one location will be using over 25% of DTE's entire power output. Now, DTE is committed that by 2035, they're going to increase that by another 18 gigawatts to 29 gigawatts using a combination of wind, solar, blah, 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 all that stuff. But these things will be coming online starting in the next 2 years. Okay. But let's look at the economic impact as well. So each one of these 2 data centers that have been approved will be creating around 2,500 construction jobs and around 400 permanent jobs. So the 2,500 construction jobs, which are higher paying jobs, well, that's really good. That's good. But those jobs are only going to be in place for around 2 years, and they're going to move off to the next site if there is going to be a next site, because there are a lot of protests about this right now. So after that, it's only 400 jobs added per site. So for 17 sites, we're really only looking at 6,800 jobs. Good paying jobs? Yes, for sure. But only 6,800 of them. It sounds like a big number, my friends. It is not a big number. But let me know what you think in the comments, what you think about the data centers. Do you like them, love them, hate them? Do you think they're necessary? Do you think they're the spawn of evil? Let me know in the comments. We ran a poll on this about about 2 months ago, after the Saline one with Oracle was approved to go through, even though the city had actually voted against it. And around 4,000 people commented. Of the 4,000, about 3,600 of them said, no, get them out of Michigan. We don't want them here, which I thought was really interesting. So let me know where you guys sit on that. Throw that in the comments for everybody. Okay, let's move on to the next bit of news we got. Where are we going now? Ooh, this is a good one. So now we're going to be talking about some shopping. So let's share the screen. Downtown Detroit sees a whole new wave of retail. I like that. All right, there we go, guys. All right, so we added a lot of retail in downtown Detroit, which was very much needed. Downtown Detroit and Detroit in general has been more of a retail desert, and thankfully not as much of a food desert anymore, but it had been a really big retail desert for literally decades. Like this article goes into a gentleman that was trying to shop for his wife who had lived downtown for 20 some odd years, and he would always have to go outside the city to find stuff for like gifts for Christmas, stuff like that. But this year, he was able to go into the new Gardner White, which is back downtown Detroit, and able to find something for his wife. Bought her a lamp, actually. It's probably a really nice lamp, I would guess. So Let me put that right there. Better. Okay, so what have we downtown Detroit just in the last 12 months? Oh, we're going to move into some future pacing stuff in a minute here. Okay, we now have a Gardner White. We now have a Free People. We now have an Aloe Yoga. We have a brand new Apple store. Now, Tim Cook himself flew out for the grand opening of the Apple store, which is really cool. We have a Kava, a Timberland, a Tacova. Tacovas? Am I pronouncing that right? Somebody correct my grammar. And of course, we have Gucci and Le Labo that had closed, but then reopened in a new location. And we have 26 new restaurants in 2025 just in downtown Detroit. That's not even the whole metro area, just in downtown Detroit. And of course, we have places that just opened up, like the Great Dane and Royal Oak, and some other really cool eateries that are happening and ongoing right now. So Metro Detroit is becoming more of a recognized foodie haven. So this is interesting. So I was having this conversation with a really good friend of mine the other day where she was saying like, hey, all the food in Metro Detroit sucks, blah, 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 blah. Now, granted, she lives in LA for, I don't know, too many years. So many years that she's jaded about pretty much everything about LA. That's how LA people are, or at least the people I know in LA. If you lived in LA or you're from LA, comment. And if you know, you know. And so anyway, we were having this conversation. And what I think she was failing to understand is that when a city or a metro area is undergoing a rebirth like we are, it takes a half a decade to a decade to really attract the true world famous restaurateurs. So what that has looked like is we've had a bunch of local people that have invested in the community. People like Mike Ransom over with EMA, right? So he's got 4 locations now. He's got the original in Corktown, which he's actually moved into the old Gold Cash Gold space. He's got the one in Midtown, which is also a sit down. Right next door, he opened up a smaller sit down called Super Crisp. And then in Madison Heights, he's got another one. If you haven't been to EMA, by the way, guys, go. It is on the Detroit Monopoly board. It's actually pretty cool. And you've got a lot of locals that had tried to invest in the area, like with a Wright & Co. or the Brakeman, which is not really a restaurant, but we'll go with it. Sam Morello, some really cool local people investing in the area. The Great Dane and Royal Oak. He's a local. His original business was screen printing in Bloomfield Hills. So anyway, where am I going with this? Now we've got some James Beard nominees, finalists, and winners, right? Selden Standard. EMA was a semifinalist. So James Beard is kind of like the next one up. And of course, the pinnacle is Michelin. And last year, Michelin actually put out a Michelin guide for Detroit saying these are all the cool things to do and see in and across Detroit and Metro Detroit. We are now on their radar. In addition to that, we have a Michelin chef coming in and opening up a restaurant in late 2026, which is very cool. We have a second Michelin chef or a chef that, then the second one worked at a Michelin star restaurant in New York. He's a native Metro Detroiter who's coming back and he's opening a restaurant. So we're finally starting to see and feel and get the people that we should have here in Metro Detroit. It's taken a while, but it's getting here. And that's just the way it goes. So that's the etymology of a growing and building area is you got to crawl, walk, run. We do have some exceptionally talented local chefs here. And now we're attracting in a lot of the bigger boys from the outside, which I think is very cool to see. All right, where are we going next around the world? Let's see. Oh, I thought affordable housing. That is something that is very much needed right now. Also, let me know how my color and sound is. This is the first live of the year. I kind of redid my setup a little bit, and I feel like my colorings might be off, or the lighting might be off, or the sound might be off. Let me know. All right, so let's remove that one. Let's stop the screen, and then let's go to the next one. I always like talking about affordable housing because that's something that we have a true shortage of here in the United States and frankly in Michigan. So let's bring this one up. Okay. And then let's bring that on the main screen. All right. I hate it when it does that. Okay. So you got some new affordable housing coming into Corktown, which I think is really nice. Right now, it's going to be 69 townhomes and apartments. Okay. So the townhomes, of course, are just going to go for market value. That's going to be anywhere from 350 to 600,000. But eventually, we're going to have 160 total apartments and townhomes. And the rents, they're holding them down at 30 to 60% of the area's median income, which is 30 to 60% of the which is 21 to 42,000. So they're holding the rents down. So what does that mean? That means that these are going to rent for An economy or flat or 0 bedroom or whatever studio, whatever you want to call it, is going to rent for $1,005 a month. Then you've got a 1 bedroom that's going to rent somewhere around $1,250 a month. And then you've got a 2 bedroom around $1,400 a month. That's the first really super truly affordable housing that's been coming in for a long time. Now, my question for this is, how's that going to stack up and how are they going to do against places like the City Club, which is no longer called the City Club, which is semi-affordable as well. But then that apartment 313 building, which is now actually in Chapter 11, their rents are way up there. Like if you wanted a 2 bedroom and you wanted to be on one of the upper floors, you're talking $3,500 a month plus towards the end of it, which I don't think the market is really bearing right now. It's very hard to afford $40,000 in rent. And yet over on where Joe Louis is, there's actually an apartment building that will be going in that's more of an upscale luxury, and those were going to be starting at $2,000 a month and going up to $6,000 a month, which I think is really interesting. The other interesting thing about this is 22 of these total apartments are going to be very specifically set aside for Section 8, because Section 8 is a problem right now inside the city of Detroit. There's a lot more demand than there are properties, but that also breeds opportunity, right? So there's an opportunity there for local investors or national investors, but local investors really, because I like supporting local, like myself, to purchase a home and put it out there Section 8, because we have a lot of people there on the waiting list to use their vouchers. And I know because I just put 2 rentals up on the market myself. And for both of them, I started getting multiple calls with people with Section 8 vouchers that could not find a house to use the voucher on. One of them is in Harper Woods, but one of them is also in Royal Oak, which is really interesting to me. So I found that was actually really interesting. All right, guys. So we're going to keep on the path of looking forward and not backward. So to that end, we're going to go over a couple of things to watch in Metro Detroit and Detroit that, like, projects wise. I'm not going to go through all of them because some of them are pretty redundant and they're older, but I'm still going to go through at least a few. So let's get this up here. And if you follow us on Instagram, you've seen reels on literally every one of these, at least one, probably multiple. All right, let's add it in and then move me back over. Great. All right. So 10 things to watch in Metro Detroit business in 2026. I'm going to go through about half of these, the big boys, right? First one, the Rensen. The Rensen. That's been all over the news, right? And, let me know again, any questions on the Rensen. I have been talking with people over at Bedrock about what's going on there. And I really think it's interesting to see the shift in Bedrock's focus, which we're going to talk about that actually in detail. Do I have that one? Yup. That's about 2 more in. So I'm gonna keep on going. So the Rensen's future taking down a couple of towers. We all talked about that. The Hudson building finally opened after almost, what was that? $800 million, 300 million of it subsidized by the taxpayers, which was very aggravating to me. It was supposed to be, if I remember right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if you know this, but off the top of my head, it's a little fuzzy. It was supposed to be about a $480 million project that ballooned to almost $800 million because during COVID, everything got more expensive. Labor went up, everything. Also, to be fair, Dan Gilbert was dragging his feet because he was fighting with the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan for more subsidies. Had he not drug his feet or waited, it would have opened a year and a half earlier and probably would have cost $100 million less. So that's what you get. That's what you get. Sometimes you play the game you win. Sometimes you play the game and you lose $100 million. Yeah. Okay. And then we got the Gordie Howe Bridge finally opening. Okay. So this is interesting to me. The Gordie Howe Bridge has been in process for 26 years and has taken 19 million man hours. I'm going to say that again. The Gordie Howe Bridge is finally set to open somewhere between February and December 2026. It has taken 26 years and 19 million man hours. And the reason why this has taken so long is because the owner of the Ambassador Bridge, Maddie Maroon, whatever his name is, fought this thing for so long because he was getting all that revenue. So think about this. Canada is our single biggest trading partner, right? It's not China. It's not Japan. It's not Mexico. Mexico is actually number 2. China. 25% of all the trade that goes back and forth between the U.S. and China goes through the Ambassador Bridge. That's a lot of cash going into Maddie Maroon's pocket that he did not want to lose by having a second bridge. But we desperately needed a second bridge. So the second bridge is a $4.7 billion affair. Is that what it is? It's somewhere. Anyway, it's a let's call it 4.7 billion. And what was actually really cool about it is that it was completely financed by Canada, not Detroit, not the state of Michigan, not the United States. I did not know that until recently. And then will be paid back. Canada will be paid back first through its tolls before the income is split between the United States and Canada. Okay. So I thought that was really interesting when I found out that it was actually financed by Canada, not by the US. And of course, making news, we've got Mary Sheffield taking office. She's the first woman mayor for the city of Detroit. I don't remember what number she is. She mayor number 36, 76, 46. She's one of them. But she's coming in, and I've got more on her coming up later on her platform and what she's actually running for and trying to achieve. And then, of course, we've got the governor's race. This is Governor Whitmer's last year in office. And then, honestly, for the Dems and the Republicans, like, who knows who they're going to put in the field. Our strongest candidate right now, I still believe, is Mayor Mike Duggan, who has vacated the mayor's seat as of January 1st. Mary Sheffield went in, and Mike has actively been campaigning and looking for donations. And frankly, guys, he's getting them. A lot of the typical Democrat donors have now swung his way, and now some of the Republican donors are starting to swing his way, and he's trying to build up that war chest as fast as he can. So Mike Dugan, one of them. Sometimes you say a word so many times you actually like kind of lose the meaning of it, and you kind of mess it up. Just doesn't sound right. That just happened. So long and the short of it is he was a Democrat and had been a Democrat for a very long time. He ran as a Democrat for the mayor of Detroit and won, was mayor for 12 years, did a great job. It's not a comment on politics, it's a comment on him. He decided to go independent. So he's saying, and all of his advertising right now is saying, I've watched several of his videos, is saying he's tired of the bipartisan politics. He's tired of the fighting between the Democrats and the Republicans. And he's decided to not be a Republican, not be a Democrat, but go independent so he can try to bridge that gap to try to get stuff done instead of it being deadlocked in Lansing. I think it's a really interesting proposition. Let me know in the comments what you think about him going independent versus picking one side or the other. Also, I think, because I do study politics, even though I don't really comment on it, the one comment I will make, I think, if there was a time where an independent could win Michigan, very similar to some of the predecessors like Minnesota and those places, now is probably the time. Now is probably the time where he can siphon away enough votes from either party to be able to win that election. It is not unheard of for an independent to run. It's not unheard of for an independent to win. Those are not new things. And then that's it for this one. Now we talk about the data centers again, but we already went into pretty extreme detail on that. So that's good. Let's move on to the next thing. Now, this is actually pretty cool. Let's remove that. Stop the share screen. Share screen. Okay. We are talking, guys. There we go. So the Joe Louis Greenway is going to hit the halfway mark in 2026. This is a 30-mile greenway that's going to be connecting the Riverwalk, the DeQuinder Cut, and then eventually to the Belle Iron 1,200-mile hiking and biking trail that goes right from Belle Isle right to Mackinac. I'm not kidding. Like, this is a big step forward for this project that we're seeing right now happening in 2026. Let me go back down a little bit. There we go. So this is yet another rail bridge that's being turned into a trail to connect. And there we go. The 30-mile greenway the project began in 2021, connecting 23 Detroit neighborhoods, the city of Dearborn, the city of Hamtramck, the city of Highland Park, to the riverfront. So eventually you're going to be able to bike or walk or hike through all of those different cities right on this Joe Louis Greenway, right? It's actually very cool. So I personally, I run the Free Press Marathon, which I got something interesting about that. I run the Free Press Marathon, which does go down the Riverwalk at one portion of it. Also, the half marathon does as well. The international, not the US only. I think it's really interesting to see the DeQuinder Cut coming forward, to see the Joe Louis Greenway coming forward. And I love these projects. And I love the new parks that are opening up in Detroit. Let me know what you guys think as well. Also, marathon news. The Free Press Marathon sold out in 6 days. That is breaking every record before. And don't forget, guys, the Free Press Marathon was voted America's #1 marathon America's #1 marathon to run, the favorite of all. And it beat out Boston, Chicago, New York, all of them. I'm talking like the ones out in Hawaii. We are #1. Another feather in our cap there. But it sold out in 6 days. And did I get my bib? Yes, I did. Because at New Year's Eve, while everybody else was partying and stuff like that, at 12:01, I was very furiously entering my credit card information to make sure that I got a spot for the International Marathon. Because that's my New Year's Eve tradition. Because I don't want to miss out, and I felt like it was gonna sell out pretty fast this year. Let me know if there are any runners in the comments. Anybody doing the either the full marathon, the half marathon, the US only, the 10K, the 5K. Let me know, guys. I want to see you, and let me know when you're going to start your training too. I know it's in October. I do not want to wait until September to start my training again this year. And then this year, I'm really hoping to do the New York Marathon as well. That is actually my favorite marathon. It's the only one that I run without music. Because the 2 million people that are lining the streets in New York as you run through the 5 boroughs, it's just electric. It's just fire. It's really hard to describe. Let me put it that way. Probably should have had this up the whole time. All right, let's move on. Let's move on because we got some stuff to talk about. Let's get rid of that. Let's stop the screen. Now we're going to share the next one. We're actually moving through a lot of this stuff at a pretty good clip. Okay, so there are another couple projects that we're going to be talking about. Really 2 because we already talked about 1. 3 big construction projects coming online in 2026. Yeah. There are 3 big construction projects coming online in 2026 in Detroit, and here they are. First one, Chasm. We did a reel on this. It's finally coming online. It's going to take about a year to build. It's going to be downtown. It's located on 3.6 acres. Bedrock is spearheading this over at Cadillac Square. This is actually really cool, by the way. The Chasms are like an immersive, almost stadium-like thing, but it's all screens. It's really cool. There's a couple of them open right now. I haven't had the opportunity to go, but it's going to be 34,000 square feet. It's going to generate a ton of revenue for the city as well. It's got a couple of different spaces inside and a patio upper level on the outside. Next up, we got the Briarwood Mall apartments. So we're finally seeing more apartments being built in Detroit and in Metro Detroit. And this is finally because we've needed to unlock more doors for people that need to rent because rents have been going up way faster than they have before. So typically speaking, at any given year, rents will go up around 4%. We've literally been seeing them go up between 7 and 10% yearly. And that's why these people are feeling it. And I have a lot of friends that are in apartments that actually, I have a friend that's in an apartment in Bloomfield Hills where when they started renting that apartment, it was $1,100 a month. Right now, it's $2,150 a month. It's only been 6 years. Literally has almost doubled. I'm not even kidding. And then last but not least, we got the Gordie Howe Bridge, which is finally going to come to completion sometime this year. We hope. No more delays. It was supposed to be last year. Didn't make it this year. But we already talked about the Gordie Howe Bridge. So let's get off that. All right. So let's remove that. All right, guys. Here we go. We're in the home stretch for the updates that are happening in Metro Detroit, things that are coming to Detroit. And we are, of course, moving on to one of the bigger stories of last year and what will be one of the bigger stories of this year. There it is. Under new leadership, Dan Gilbert's Bedrock is poised to make some big changes. The number one thing they're doing is they're not working on downtown anymore. They feel like they've done enough up and down the Woodward corridor from Campus Martius all the way up to the Hudson building and even beyond, helping participate in projects like LCA. What they're actually going to be doing is starting to focus on the riverfront itself, which includes the RenCen. So the current plan by the gentleman that took over Bedrock that was just appointed, I cannot remember his name. The current plan is to take down a couple of those towers and make it go from looking like this to looking like this. How interesting is that? Now, check this out. If you notice, there's a London Eye, like a big carousel thing, which I think is really super interesting. Like they're putting in a London Eye, or at least in the renderings they're doing it. So the goal here is to eventually make downtown Detroit even more of a tourist spot than it is right now, which it's arguable whether it is or not. You can kind of go both ways on that. For events, it is. Like, I think right now the majority of the people that go to Detroit are going event-based, right? So 30 million people visit Detroit per year, right? Of that, I mean, they're counting the people from the suburbs. So I think that's cheating. So I live in Royal Oak. I like to go to a Lions game. I cross 8 Mile. I'm a tourist. I spend a couple of bucks at the well, more than a couple of bucks at the Lions game. But if I go down and see a show at Cliff Bell's, I'm a tourist that night too. So like if we're really going to count it, of the 30 million tourists that visited Detroit in 2025, I was 26 million of them. No, I'm kidding. But you see my point. And let me know if you visited Detroit in the last 12 months or if you live in Detroit. So then would you be counted as a tourist if you live in Sherwood Forest, but go catch a Wings game? I wonder if they count you. I'm curious. Anyway, so their goal is to bring an additional 5 to 7 million tourists by expanding this whole riverfront, waterfront area, getting rid of the rent center, adding retail, adding parks, adding cool stuff to do, and apparently amusement park, like a London Eye type thing, which I think is I don't know about that one. I don't know about a very large Ferris wheel. I don't know. That might not be for me. So they're also shifting their goals towards more affordable housing as well, and they're wrapping up their longer running projects that are on Woodward. So the biggest shift that we're seeing Bedrock undergo right now is simply they're getting off of Woodward and they're going even further down to Jefferson, and they're going to work on that over there. Now, best case scenario, in my opinion, they buy Cobo Hall and they rename it Cobo Hall, not Huntington Place. What is that? Too many corporate. Compose yourself. It's Tiger Stadium. It's not Comerica Park, in my own opinion. It's really only been Tiger Stadium like once or twice of the 5 Tiger Stadiums there have been. But still, in my opinion, it's Tiger Stadium. Now, I'm showing my age. Yes, I'm that old that I did go to and remember the original Tiger Stadium because that closed in 98. I want to say 99, one of those 2 years. So, yeah, I was still in high school. All right, guys. We got one more thing left, and then we're going to get up on out of here. So let's get this down. Let's stop screen. And we are going to be talking about Mayor Mary Sheffield and some of the things that she's looking to tackle and accomplish. And comment whether you think that she is the right pick for Detroit or there was someone else or anyone else that you feel could have been better. I think that's something good to know. I want to hear from you guys out there. So Mary Sheffield is going to be Detroit's new mayor. She was just sworn in, which I think is really cool. I don't know if it's really cool, but it is. I mean, that's up to you. And in her first 100 days, she really wants to shake up the city government, but she's also keeping a lot of the people, including the police commissioner that the previous mayor had put in, and a lot of other people. And she's keeping them in the roles. She's recognizing how far they've helped the city come, and she doesn't want to shake things up too much, especially in her first 100 days. I respect that. She also got married like the weekend after. Whatever. So first one she wants to tackle is gun violence, which I think is also really interesting because a new report just came out. I just posted on Instagram. Go to the at the Perna team on Instagram or the Perna team on Instagram, and scroll down just a couple of spots and you'll see it. Where violence and more specifically homicide is at a 60-year low. It's the lowest it's been since 1963 in Detroit. There were well below 200 homicides in 2025 versus the 202. I think it was like 165 homicides versus the 202 in 2024. And even that was a low number. So gun violence is very high on her list to attack. I think I'm sure that she likes the report, but if I were mayor, I would have wanted that report to come out just a little later after I got in my 100 days, because this is going to make it harder for her to do whatever she wants to do to get the guns off the street or put more guns on the street or safety classes or whatever her plan is to reduce guns or to reduce gun violence. But let us not stop and dwell on them for a moment that we have the lowest crime rate in Detroit since 1963. That's pretty cool. And to be fair, as a lifelong Metro Detroiter, somebody that went to high school in the city, somebody went to university in the city, I can say this: it does feel different. And even some of the neighborhoods are feeling different. Like I was in Boston Edison the other day. I was over at the Congregation having a coffee because I was doing a shoot of a great home in Boston Edison. And it just feels different than it did even 10 years ago. At least I think. I mean, let me know below what you think. Let me know if you feel safer in Detroit today versus 15 or 20 years ago, or you don't. I'd really like to know. And then last but not least, of course, one of the things that oh, where's my mouse? There it is. One of the things that she wants to work on, and I really appreciate, is home ownership and affordability. I don't know what she means by housing rights. I think that has more to do with crappy landlords than anything else, if I'm just being honest. But one of the things she wants to do is reduce the taxes in Detroit, which I really appreciate because they're way up at like 63 mills or something. To put that in perspective, most of the cities in Metro Detroit are somewhere between 27 and 51 mills. Almost no, I mean, even Southfield is less expensive than Detroit right now. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm gonna look that up. If anybody knows that answer, throw that down there. But if you look at like a Milford at 39 mils, or a Novi at 37 mils, or whatever other city you've got, 63 mils is outrageous. And the problem is compounding as home values are going up. So our market here in Detroit became last year the #1 appreciated market, and it beat Miami. It beat Miami. Now, granted, the average home price in Detroit is still $100,000, but if you're looking at Boston Edison, it's hard getting in under 400 or 450. And there was a sale that just happened at 2 million, right? Sherwood, same thing, 700,000 average, right? Palmer, same thing, $630,000 average. And the problem is when these homes went from, let's call it 125,000 in Grandmont, or 175,000 or 165,000 in Rosedale, and now that house is worth 400,000, and you've got the high millage. When somebody buys that next home, the property tax is uncapped and recapped at that higher level, right? And it's based on 3 sales from the previous year. So there are a lot of people that are getting smacked in the face with these very high tax bills that they were not expecting. So as your agent, and yes, I'm using the assumptive there because we've got over 3,000 5-star Google reviews, and I'm going to put those up on the screen while I round this out and we finish up our day here together. So let me remove that because I got some good information I'm about to drop on you about taxes and a couple of other things. Let me get that up there. Boom. Add to stage. Okay. Yeah, that didn't work out very well. There it is. Boom. 3,009 Google reviews. Go me. Go team. Not me. I don't do anything. I'm just the face. Yep, 3,009. Okay, good. But as I was saying, when you are ready to purchase your next home, first, use the Burner team. Thank you. And if not, be sure that when you go see a home and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, I'm actually interested in this property, the first question you should ask is, and the first thing they should be looking up and telling you is what the taxes are going to be for the next owner, meaning probably you if you want to buy that house. Because I do not want to see you go through what I see people go through over and over and over and over. And this is what happens. I got a complaint call from someone else's buyer that called us to sell their house 6 months after they purchased it. So 7 months. What had happened was they bought one of our sellers' homes, right? And their agent did not disclose to them that the property taxes were going to go up. The property taxes were $2,700. They went up to $6,100. $6,100. That was over $250, $300 a month difference, literally. $275 a month or whatever it was. But you don't find out right away because it takes the city assessor. They sell the property. You go turn the property transfer affidavit, which triggers the new assessor's assessment to move it from the state equalized value to the taxable value to the state equalized value, move it up. And then it's not until that next tax bill, which was several months later, came out. The tax bill went 2 places. It went to them, which of course they opened it, read it, and threw it away, like most people do. And then it also went to the mortgage company. The mortgage company said, oh, we got to collect $275 more per month. So we're going to adjust your payment up. And they had already maxed out their affordability. They were stretching beyond stretching, which they should not have done in the first place. But then that $300 a month was a straw that broke the camel's back. They were so mad at their real estate agent. They called us and said, hey, can you help us sell this house and buy a different one? Because we literally are choosing between food and our mortgage payment. I don't want you to choose food or mortgage payment. I want you to choose both. So my name is Mike Perno, local real estate agent here in Metro Detroit. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'm really surprised how many people tuned in for this very first live of 2026. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments anything I should be covering, any topics I should be covering, any bit of news that you want me to cover on the next one. We're going live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. So I will see you next Thursday.